Today we'll talk how Simpson protocol began, what makes it different from traditional hypnosis, and how Simpson protocol has evolved over time. Also about a recently published book in Polish. Welcome, Ines. Thank you for being here.
Hello. I'm glad to be here.
I'm
And
also very glad that you're
so
here.
answer that question, that's pretty a big question. It evolved about 20 years ago. I started it thinking about I was doing regression to cause and all those type of things. And I I started doing it, and some people just didn't want to talk to you. They didn't want to tell you they were raped. They were this, they were that. And especially the men didn't want to tell a woman that they were raped or anything like that. It was none of that. So I had to figure out a way to do it without knowing the answers. So I started saying, well, you can take yourself through it. And I started with taking them through the old stuff with the conscious mind. So eventually it transformed. I was talking to superconscious mind, and superconscious mind evolved it continuously. Now, in 20 years, you have what you have now when you're teaching now, but it was not like that at the beginning. But
So, how was it at the beginning?
well, at the beginning, it was very good, but it wasn't attaching only the conscious mind. We ask to park it now. So that means it can evolve, it can come out, it can interrupt if they get fearful. So fearful, I can call them on the contract I start at the beginning and say to them, you're not using your contract. I think I'll have to do something about that. I'll have to take it if you want to. If you do it in the next 15 minutes or so, I'll keep going. But if you don't, I'll just have to stop. So this has given me the power to do the session. Otherwise, I can spend 2 hours or something doing something very coming from the conscious mind that isn't going to get her anywhere or him. So I get them to do what they supposedly should do, which we talk to them in the pre-talk and we tell them they have to be open. You have to not have the conscious mind interfering. It should observe all the time and it can chatter at you constantly, but don't engage your conscious mind because you engage it, then it comes forward. But you think about it in the theory, they tell you the conscious mind is only 10%, 15%, whatever it is. And that's a very little part of your mind to use. We use it every day to do everything, but you should use your whole mind to get to what you want. So anyway, it took me a while to evolve that. I got to Simpson Protocol. I think it was called Working in Esdale and Beyond before that. And it got to be Simpson Protocol because some of the students had said, "Oh, let's do your protocol, Simpson Protocol." Oh, so it got called that, you see. So I said, "Okay, I'll call it that from now on." So it was Simpson Protocol in a few years. And every year it evolved, and it was my limiting beliefs being changed because they were constantly back in the old thinking of hypnosis because I had been taught that. So I slowly changed my thinking over the time. And by now it's very, very strong because I work telepathically with everything. Um, by the way, when you attended the self-hypnosis, how was it?
Great.
Yeah. So,
Amazing.
yeah. So I do that all telepathically and everything, and you loved it. So things have evolved a lot. So when you get over to this super conscious, they have to think when they're being trained, they said, well, they have to switch their mind from it's much easier to train someone who hasn't been trained already than to train a hypnotist to be open like that. And you'll get somebody who does Reiki or something and comes and right away they're into it. Because they're not having to be unlearning what they learned before. And Simpson Protocol is got your mind has to be open. And usually they want to be in control of the sessions. Yeah.
Can you describe a little bit from your perspective, what does it mean to be open?
That is very hard to explain. But for one thing, I'd say you have to be open to new ideas. You have to be open. Let's say you have insomnia and you like to intend that. You actually minimize what you're going to get. So just be open to healing. And when you're open, it slowly grows. Maybe the first session you'll only half open, but it's a good start. And by the second session, you're fully open and much happens. A lot happens in the second session. So being open is just not believing. If you believe anything, it's stuck. When you're open to it, it can grow. You see,
Not believing in anything?
yeah.
Okay.
So you don't believe, because if you believe, it gets stuck. You be open. You say, well, I'll be open to learn more stuff. I'll be open to know more stuff. I'll be open to be in more stuff instead of believing. I mean, believing's fine. I believe in things. I believe in that, but I don't use it in the sessions. I am very open in the sessions. So it's about the only thing I can think of saying about openness.
So what is the essence of or guiding principle of SP?
It's to trust superconscious. The more you trust, the more you get. If you don't trust, you get little bit. If you get more, you get more. Like I did a class the other night, and it was the first one. So their trust wasn't very high. Right. So the first thing that happened was that lady, the first was a demo, and she'd never done any hypnosis before. And it was very interesting. So they learned that, they created that. And the second, they practiced it. So on the second session next week, they're much more open because the first one, they experienced it. It's the experience. It's not the teaching. The experience they have in hypnosis. Because we take people out of a realm and take them to a certain place where they can feel, sense, and know more stuff.
So then when they come for the course, are they open, you think?
Sometimes half of them anyway.
So what brings them to the course?
Well, it's holistic. So that means it's every part of the body, mind, spirit, and soul. So if they're that kind of person that thinks that the whole of you needs to work on something, so it's everywhere, they are intrigued by that. And they're coming to the course because of that. So
Okay.
then they find out the first that they have to be more open, and they find out that, and they find out continuously to learn. This is something that needs to be developed. In the 6, 7 weeks I spend with them, and you spend with them, they have to transfer from that blocked up sort of person that they are to the open person by the end. Yeah. And it's difficult if they're using their conscious mind because they're not going to make it.
Yeah, I was there. I've
Yeah.
experienced that and I've experienced this transformation. So it is doable. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's
it takes
doable.
practice.
Yeah.
Practice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just about openness. If the more open you become, and you are very open, by the way, but they get very much more out of it when they're open. So the first time they're only half open, let's say. They think they're
Mhm.
open,
Okay.
but they don't really know what openness means till they do the second session.
Yeah, and you said about being open, so don't have any beliefs, yeah? Getting rid of all the beliefs. And when they come for the first lesson of the course, first session, first
Mhm.
meeting, so they've got many doubts, many questions. What if, yeah? And these are those beliefs.
And
And
those are the questions that are always annoying because they're always the same answer. You know, openness means you leave behind those beliefs. It doesn't mean you can't believe them later on, but for the sessions, you mustn't be in belief. You must be in openness. There's difference because you can believe in God and take it on, and you have all these ideas of what God is. Well, that's not it. Superconscious is a code word for anything you want. But realize when you're minimizing it by your beliefs, you need to open them up to grow. That's it. It's opening your own mind.
yeah.
And I developed I mean, I've been doing this 20 years. And as I develop it and it changes with help from you know, my practitioners or whatever, superconscious is actually training me very much. So I did training with, we did practice with Lisa and Christy, and they're open, very open. And so all this stuff we could develop. But everyone's like that. I can say Steen, I did Christoph, anybody else that helped me. I wasn't doing it by myself. But superconscious took me to the edge and always bringing it higher. Yeah.
Do you know when did you feel this guidance from the superconscious? I'm quite curious.
Hmm.
Do you know?
Um, I don't know. It was quite a while ago. It must have been 10 years ago or something. I don't really remember exactly. I can't exactly say, oh, it was January of 19 whatever, but it happened. And I knew when my trust was at its highest, it couldn't, I was so strong in believing superconscious that my strength brought it up. I was back a practitioner of Simpson protocol, and it brings up the client's belief or sense or knowing or whatever and they change their beliefs. So they become stronger. And that means if you're Catholic, you're stronger. If you're um, a Jewish guy, you're going to be stronger in your own self. That doesn't matter what religion you are. If you're Hindi. I don't know, but there's no concept. It's just for everyone to change it. And you don't have to necessarily change your beliefs, but you can alter them. You leave them more open.
Thank you. Let's talk a bit about the book, which is quite unique. I've got this here with me. This is the Polish version of this
Yeah,
book.
that doesn't do me much good because I can't read it, but that's okay.
Yeah, and this book includes contributions from practitioners from around the world. And the question is, what inspired you to prepare this book in this way?
Well, I had been trying to do this for quite a few years before it happened. The first one was, brought in. But getting people to write their case studies and the outcomes is what you want. We didn't want to tell them how to do SP or anything like that. It was for people to learn what could happen in SP sessions. So there were many sessions that they told you what they did and what they did. So you couldn't learn SP from it because, well, that would be a little strange because we have to teach you in 6 weeks when we're doing the process. So I don't think you could learn it out of a book. So it's very interesting. I used to get lots of comments on it, and everybody that commented on, they'd come to my course and they'd say, "We read this book. It was awesome." But you see, looking at it from the point of view of somebody in their analytical mind, it doesn't tell you how to do SP. Well, I'm sorry you can't tell how to do SP except in the course. So that's just never be written like that. It have to be a manual, and even the manuals, they continuously evolve. So what's the point? You can't do it. You have to have a structure and for you to follow, which in our case is very allowing. So it's the wrong thing. In that book, I had somebody tell me, "Oh my God, they were just about crying, about what they could get." I said, "Yeah, that's what you can get, but that's from different practitioners, imagine. Some of them are at this part of the stage of growth, and they're get this outcome and this person gets this outcome. That doesn't make them in SP, you get an outcome no matter what. It's just the size of the outcome. So let's say you're working with cancer or something, it'll work if the client is open. Now, they all wanted the fear of the cancer brings up the fears. So you have to deal with that with your client. You have to be unfearful. You can't say, "I'm afraid I'm going to die." You know, I'm not afraid to die, for one thing. I believe and sense and know and everything that there's an afterlife. So what does it matter if I left tomorrow or I do 20 years from now? It's not that big a feeling, but that's most people are driven by their fear. So if you only took the course, even not working with people, the person grows so much during the course that they get a very big benefit out of it. Uh, didn't you grow a lot through the course?
I constantly grow from the course till now
Yeah,
and
yeah,
faster and faster. So I
yeah,
was different person before the course
yeah,
and different person after. It's like a huge change. Yeah.
yeah. It's huge. Yeah, you're very much different because when you first started, you were analyzing everything to death, right?
Yeah. But
So
I signed up for the course because I knew there is something for me. I knew that. I didn't know what, but I knew there
that's
is
what people
this course is
say.
for me.
People come to your course and they'll say, I was brought to this. It was
Yeah.
a sign. They always say that. But it sounds very strong for when you are saying it, right? But it's much different now than when you started.
Yeah, it is.
Hmm.
So actually, you've already answered the question why you decide not to describe the exact method
Yeah.
in the book. Yeah. Is-
Yeah. There's no describing, they wouldn't know how to use the method. Can be described and you can say, do this, do this. It isn't like that. It
Yeah.
isn't like that in superconscious world.
Just
It,
reading the sentences from the book is not the session. Yeah.
no,
So,
no.
so some people imagine that after maybe reading the book or hearing about SP, that working with superconscious requires special maybe talents or intuitive abilities or maybe superhuman skills. And from your
No.
perspective, who can learn SP?
Everybody could learn it because they could all begin at conscious level and give up their conscious to when you got super conscious, it's so big you don't want to give it I don't want to say, oh, it's got the Catholic beliefs, oh, it's this belief, or there's none of that. There's just openness to whatever super conscious is a code word for whatever the person wants it to be. And they be open and want it to be a lot, it'll be a lot for them. And if they start with a belief, there'll be little. So you need to open up. It doesn't matter. I have different people teaching SP. Some are Catholic, some are this. This Jewish guy in Brazil said, "Oh, I can't do that. I can't call it that." And I said, "Don't call it that. Do whatever you need for your religion, but stay open to the benefits of having superconscious take you there." He's still practicing now. So that's great. You see somebody who's just drawn to that, but slowly has moved open. He's become more open. I mean, the Jewish faith is relatively open, but they can still be more open because there's never an end to being open.
Yeah.
As you grow, you have some more. Super conscious just removes my limiting beliefs one at a time. So I get there, oh, that was a limiting belief. I have them, you have them, everybody's got them. So understand we're no different than the people taking our course. And we teach them how to be open. That's what we're really doing. And it's a method we put them in very deep and very high. So there's nothing. Where is he? They're the highest they can go today. And tomorrow they'll be higher. You know, there's no end to it. There's never an end to us humanists because humans are like that.
So looking back over the years, how many years SP exists? That's how many years?
I think I started around, I mean, really started around 2006.
Okay. So, oh my God, 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, 20 years.
Start from the
So,
beginning.
I mean, like when it was called Esdale and Beyond, it was just getting started. But we don't use Esdale necessarily in certain parts of we do. You have to use it for birthing, you have to use it for different things. But now you find that you didn't need it in sessions because the person really was deeper than Esdale. And sometimes they're not when, you don't make that decision and they just drift off deeper. You put the structure in and they get fearful.
So,
Yeah.
what were the most important shifts which have happened over those years with SP?
Well, at the first, I believed they had to be in Esdale from, to be there. I wanted to get them too high. I figured, if they went deeper, they went higher, you know. So,
Okay.
but I also found that it was restricting in some ways. So I decided to leave it off. And I don't know when I did that. It was, back it was a few years. So, I mean, you know how to do SL and you can use it, but you don't need to do it unless the person has pain and wants to get rid of the pain and or birthing or anything like that. But otherwise, you can leave it really open because they can go deeper than that. And then you leave it open, it works really well. The reason Esdale gets used is because we can get it in this one place. That Esdale is just a small place where they have no pain. So that isn't, you have to remove pain. You have to be careful because if if you give it to them when their legs broken, well, you don't want to say that because they don't want to have 100% pain relief. The next thing they'll do it is they'll smash it into the ground. They'll break it. So you have to be careful and be knowledgeable about that.
That's always for the highest good, yes? So I
Yeah,
don't
it's
think
highest
superconscious
good.
will I don't think superconscious would release the pain completely, but because that wouldn't be for the
No,
highest good.
no. See, that's the benefit. We can leave superconscious to decide what the right
Yeah,
pain level would be.
yeah.
You can ask them, superconscious, can you put the light right pain level in? And they'll find out which it is. Some in birthing, it's pretty well gone always, and the lady feels the contractions, but there's no discomfort in it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So potentially coming back to the book, if there is a reader who just finished the book, what would be the most benefit from the book for the readers? How do you think?
Well, it shows them, let's say a brand new person is leaving and they're feeling a little bit let down and they're whatever, there's something wrong in their life. Well, they can see all the different aspects of people who have changed their life and accepting the change. So the most, I think the most thing is to get the people open in their ideas. So that I think the book does that. I think it really does. I think it really does that because every aspect they're coming at it from a different way.
If someone, let's say, is hearing about Simpson Protocol from this video for the first time,
Mhm.
what would you say to help them to understand what is this from your
Well,
perspective?
it depends where they're coming from. What they, they'll be analytical, and that's normal. But it's normal to grow out of that. You have to let it go analytic because I don't have any power. Superconscious does. So I'm a practitioner. I have them open to allow superconscious to work on them. Now that is all I do, really. That's everything I do in a session. And you too. It's just having the people open so they'll grow. what will I say to them? Start off anywhere and grow and just allow you to grow opener. And, I have people like this. You have a person who is doing regression to cause. He says to me, I've never been in hypnosis. Now, that's baloney because, when you're reading a book and watching a movie and all that, natural hypnosis. So he's been in natural hypnosis, but he wants to be control. He has this control mechanism. He's afraid of something. So he won't allow himself to go in hypnosis. Now, he can practice hypnosis, but how is he going to transfer his, um, not belief, his openness to them? He's not very open. So I don't think it's beneficial for him to be not open. And I said, if I put you in hypnosis, I won't be any different than anybody else. Oh, but so I said, well, I'll not try, I'll do it, but you're going to have to accept it. You're the one that's doing it, not me, right? So the poor guy didn't do it. He didn't believe he got there. And I said, well, I told you it wouldn't be any different. So you can't change people from their ultimate. They can change. They're the ones that change. Like if he took the course, you could say he'd be there in a difficult place in that first week. He would have a hard time with it. I don't think, well, he wouldn't come to the course anyway, but it's that kind of thinking to be open because I want people who are open and they work from the heart. You're not using your mind. So I think that's about it. I just go around in circles. I never say anything much.
So would you like to add something? Because that was my last question.
Oh, well, I think it's important that I'd say the same old stuff. You be open, grow and grow and grow, and don't not just be thankful for your growth. Thankfulness and gratitude is well accepted by the superconscious as your growth.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because let's say, I remember one week I did something with you and you said, wow, that was great. And you accepted it and you grew like crazy. And she put up, there was a gratitude in that. Anyway, your gratitude grows it very much.
Thank you so much
You're welcome very much.
for your time and for creating SP and
Yeah.
for attracting me to your space.
Well, do you know that when I think 20 years ago, I remember somebody, a psychic or something said to me, you're going to be doing something. I said, okay. He said, but doesn't matter. Oh, I think it was Daniel Brinkley. He said, yeah, it doesn't matter. You don't have to do it. If you don't do it, someone else will.
So you teach other people to also do the same great stuff for other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we create a very strong, powerful morphic field together, and we
Oh,
can
yeah.
use
And
it
you,
in our
and 20
session.
years, it's grown so much. It's now much different because our morphic fields are stronger and they continuously grow, continuously, and in different languages.
And the most amazing thing, actually, there are many things in SP which are amazing, but that we can ask for the connection with heavy hitters. So we can ask for help from the morphic field here.
Yeah.
So we can ask for help for us as a guides, also for the client. So we can all be connected. That's amazing thing.
And it's all due to the client, what they'll accept.
Yeah.
And the most that, according to their openness, we always get back to that. But it's very, you know, what got me about that, what Daniel Brinkley said was, oh, I'm doing it. Whatever it is, I'm doing it. Now, there's a little ego there.
Okay.
That was ego. There has to be a little spark of something that you need. I mean, when the telephone was accepted, it was three guys were doing that, right? And one became the one that did it the first. So that's what it was. So how would this SP be now if somebody had done it be called something else?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.